people who are financially savvy. How did you get like that? What characteristics make you that way? I'm curious because I'm not like that at all. I feel like I always try my best, but the results aren't that great, and I feel like sometimes I don't know how to improve even though I do read finance books and all that. My parents didn't really teach me anything financial growing up, so I learned mostly from books, podcasts, and internet. How did you get good with money? Are you good with numbers? Are you good at math? Are you really thorough? Are you good at record keeping? Is it your personality or something innate? Like, what is your secret? My parents set an example by demonstrating scarcity and care with money. My mom would get a stack of cash to buy groceries with, and she explained that was all we could spend until the next time my dad got paid. That introduced the idea of being careful. I think if she splashed out on something superfluous, it was obviously the cost would be not having milk later or something. They also would talk about how foolish buying on time, financing, was, particularly in the context of non-essentials like furniture, and if someone says something enough times you tend to absorb it. When I left home I wasn't that savvy, but I knew to spend carefully and not get into debt. Definitely a leg up over people who didn't get that lesson though. I managed to get along just fine on that for my 20s, not saving much but also avoiding trouble. It was stumbling into stuff about investing, discovery of Canadian couch potato, then Millionaire teacher, that really motivated me to take the next step into actual savviness. The notion of playing a game better and not getting taken advantage of clicked. I am math inclined, was a science major, and there probably is something innate that contributes as well. I'm late to the game, but I'm doing well. Late not from lack of interest, but from lack of dollar and lack of knowledge. For me, it was being fortunate to befriend someone who makes literally 1/4 of my income, but had accrued around 10x my net worth through real estate and other smart investing. She is older and she had a great tailwind for sure, but also did everything right in terms of knowing how/who/where to go to invest, leverage, and save. For context, this person's income isn't always has been around 40K to 50K, but has a net worth or around 7M or so through equities and real estate. She has a bunch of properties, cleaned up this year in the bull stock market run, made her house work for her through adding an income suite, etc. etc. Nothing magical or complicated at all, just always looking to have money and assets work for her. Basically, I'm just copying her, using the same investment strategy, same mortgage broker as her, same leverage approach, etc. Punchline: find a mentor who is generous with their knowledge, who is what you want, and simply follow what they do, scaled to your current financial situation. I can describe my late father, who was very financially savvy and did very well for himself. There were two things that made him that way. The first was extreme competence in his field. He was always a top performer and therefore made good money as a result, but he just loved being great at his work, and the money was a byproduct and not the motivation. Secondly, he valued the ability to buy or do whatever he wanted far more than actually buying or doing those things. So having that freedom to choose made it really easy to just say, I could afford to buy a BMW 7 Series, but this 5-year-old luxury car that's 85% off retail makes me feel so much better and savvy. Start with your mindset. It doesn't matter how much you make, it's how much you keep. Ever hear of wealthy PPL going bankrupt? They spend more than they make. Practice delayed gratification. Do you really need that new thing? Understand the difference between a need and want. What do you need versus what you want? If it's a want, then hold off for several months and revisit. Be mindful of taxes and inflation. Continually look through the lens of how do I reduce my taxes? What are taxable events and what are tax deductions? Then how do I hedge for inflation? Inflation is the silent destroyer of wealth. Understanding the difference between investing and speculating is a good exercise. What changed my view on things was Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Would highly recommend that book. You need to understand the difference between an asset and liability. Assets pay you to own them. If you operate from that mindset, you'll see every purchase differently. And it's get rich slow. Most PPL give up after a few months or years. You need to live it every day. Even on weekends. It needs to be ingrained into who you are. Just be reasonably good at using Excel. Measure your success. I've been keeping a detailed net worth statement since 2004 with quarterly reviews and revaluing. Good luck, be patient, and always be open to learning. Don't compare yourself to others, but do take the time to learn from them. I have a sibling who takes multiple vacations a year. They have multiple maxed CCs, a maxed LOC, and no savings. They can't afford decent clothes for their growing kids. They also make fun of me for being boring. I see the stress this causes them in all their daily interactions, and I work to avoid it like the plague. I have multiple savings accounts, an empty credit card, and access to more credit at minuscule interest rate. We plan a big vacation, i.e. Central Europe in 2023, every 5 years or so. One of my kids needed a new pair of shoes, so we bought them 2 pairs BC. They liked them so much. My sibling will never be able to do that. They're living for today while I'm planning the life I'll have when I'm 95. My wife's whole family thinks we are poor because we don't have $300K worth of cars in the driveway, a $3 million home, and 2 rental properties. It's so annoying. Just because we don't give a shit what other people see doesn't mean we can't afford it. I'd rather invest and retire happy than be a landlord till I'm 70 like my wife's parents. What really cracks me up is I drive a Mini Countryman John Cooper Works Edition, and my wife has a Volvo XC90 Sport Edition. Apparently this also means we are poor. Seriously, WTF for people thinking these days. You do you, that's the secret to happiness. Give 0 F's what others think. I was in a lot of debt and my friends were too, so I thought that was okay. Until one day I was watching Dragon's Den and the author of The Wealthy Barber was one of the investors. I got curious on what it was about. Got inspired and learned what's possible. I then got a new job, stopped hanging around with my old friends, and read more. It took 4 years to fix my 30K debt and credit score, but I got there. The fact that you are curious and want to learn is a good step. Pay yourself first is the concept that stick to me. My parents often told me that as a child, I always loved money, hoarding my coins and even doing errands for it, so growing up, I just naturally developed the urge to manage my money very well. I don't want any of it to be ill-spent, especially when I worked hard to earn it. I didn't have any book to read or any role model to look up to. In fact, my own parents had very bad spending habits and were even drowning in debt at one point. I guess it's just my own will to really take care of my money and to not be like my parents that's keeping me so conscious about it. Find the balance between your wants and your needs. Also determine what your financial goals are. Do you want to save for retirement? Do you want to enjoy life to its fullest and how that enjoyment looks for you? How do you want to live your day-to-day life? There are no right or wrong answers, as it ultimately depends on what you want out of life and how you envision living your life. Some people really enjoy eating out a lot and spending a lot of money on life. Mention this in some threads and you will be attacked for wasting money. Financial success for us was my now wife and I agreeing when we moved in together what our financial goals were. We had both made financial mistakes in the past. Did the rob Peter to pay Paul and the old living paycheck to paycheck, and we wanted to find a way out of that. The way out of that was to live below our means. It was us buying a house that was substantially less than we were pre-approved for. Buying vehicles that were substantially less than we could afford. It was using any extra money that we could find to pay off our debt and still keep a healthy balance in the bank account so we weren't living check to check. For us, it was finding the balance that worked for us. We still took vacations. We still bought new homes. We still bought new vehicles. But we always did it less than we could afford. As an example, back in 2004 we were pre-approved for a $750,000 mortgage. Our banker told us we could get more, but that was the top of her approval process, and if we wanted more we could get it. We bought a house that was $400,000. Living below our means though didn't mean we lived cheaply. We enjoy our lives. When we make purchases it isn't about buying the cheapest, it just means that we don't buy the most expensive either. We still get the new car, but we select the mid-grade level instead of the fully loaded model. And over the years we figured out when enough is enough. Beat your own drum. Don't buy stuff you already own, make them last: phone, car, property. It is always cheaper to do maintenance if you love it, repair or renovate. You need to become a bit of a research geek. Many times there are alternatives to buying something new. You just have to be able to reconcile the cost-benefit analysis. Realize that time is your best ally. It's shocking what $200 per month or $2,400 per year can amount to over 30 years. In terms of vacations, never finance a vacation, Christmas, or gifts. You can plan for all of this, and should always live responsibly with your earnings. Create a budget. Live conservatively. Don't whine when you can't purchase things instantly. It's a mindset. Most of us have to wait at some point in our lives to fund our hobbies and interests. Read good sources for info about investing and what to do with savings, which isn't that hard, but the real part that most struggle with is budgeting and actually saving the money that they then invest. The easiest trade is, don't buy things you don't need. Do you own a TV? Awesome, you don't need to buy a new TV. Do you own enough clothes to get you to the next weekend? Awesome, you don't need to buy any more. This also extends to upgrading quality of things. Can you get by with a 10-year-old Honda Civic? Awesome when choosing your first car that will work. You don't need a new truck. Don't buy stuff you don't need, and whenever there is a cheaper option you need to realistically assess whether the cheaper option will work. Then go with the cheaper option. I got some financial advice from my dad, who was going to be an accountant but for reasons couldn't be. So he's pretty good with numbers. He taught me the basics on how to keep afloat and, most importantly, do not spend beyond your means. So don't buy the fancy car when you don't know if you can afford the maintenance. Don't get the fancy apartment if you can't keep on top of the bills. The thing that stuck with me is not to spend beyond my means, and I've been okay in the financial realm ever since. I'm naturally frugal. It does not run in my family, nor was it modeled for me by my parents growing up. I keep my finances simple and keep my needs in check. I am satisfied with very little and feel gratitude for abundance. I naturally distrust authority and anyone selling something. I learn and adapt. I strive for independence and self-reliance, but I tend to my important relationships and know I need community to survive. I understand that few are wealthy off their own labor. I don't like working, so I know I need enough wealth to achieve that. I invested young and keep investing. I'm bad with numbers, bad with math, and was never really taught anything about finances other than to be afraid of debt. I decided to pop onto YouTube to figure out how to get my finances in order. I stumbled upon Dave Ramsey and really got into his financial baby steps. It was a very easy entry point into figuring out what I should do. As I completed the first few baby steps, I kept watching over videos, reading books, and looking at this sub. After the first few months and my thinking about PF matured, I moved on from Dave Ramsey to other ideologies. I'm now in a much better financial position to the average Canadian family and way better off than when I first started. I now think about building wealth every day, and it's a blessing and a curse, way less fun than being ignorant about money, but my future self is going to be really happy with me. I am cheap. I'm 32 and I'm seeing a lot of people fall into the trap of showing off. People see their friends buying a luxury vehicle and they feel the pressure to then buy one too. Avoiding this will help you in many ways. But the main thing is to figure out what is important to you. A luxury vehicle may be important to you, it may not. But the main takeaway is to make sure you're spending your money on things that are important to you, and not someone else. This way your money is at least working towards the things you value the most, and not things that bring you no value. So much of being financially savvy is understanding the data and the math. The numbers don't lie. To do this, I recommend using spreadsheets to track, manage, plan, and run scenarios for your financial life with increasing complexity as you get more comfortable. Use online resources to teach yourself the concepts and calculations. Be skeptical of any online comments that don't provide facts and reasoning. Challenge what you hear, assume it is wrong until you look at the source and understand the how and the why, the rules and the options. Use the rubber duck approach. When you can explain something to the rubber duck, you have shown that you understand it. I suggest the following order: balance sheet. What do you have versus what do you owe? What types of assets? What types of debt? Spending transactions. Record everything. Categorize. Cash flow. What is your gross and net income? What is your total and discretionary spending, by category? Taxes. Estimate, then calculate what your tax owing/refund will be. Portfolio. Project the expected long-term return of what you own. Understand the diversification across asset classes and geography. What is the distribution yield? Retirement planning. What will be your needed income? What will current assets plus sources provide? How much more do you need to save? Scenarios. Modeling what could happen under various conditions: new job, unemployment, economic downturn, disability, marriage, home ownership. This all is worth the time invested. Got in debt when I was 20. Didn't enjoy life at all when I was in debt. Couldn't even buy a coffee without thinking I shouldn't be doing this. So I worked for about 1 year without friends or anything of pleasure's work. Paid off all my debt and honestly think it left a little PTSD. So I got on Google and Reddit. I fucking learned how many worlds and easy ways to never in that situation again. Honestly, money and being savvy with it is very, very easy once you stick to a plan. I think good with money is more like understanding where your money goes, trying to find where money can be saved, trying to grow your money, getting good value for your money, being conscious of spending. I think there is a subjective balance to all of this. Being extremely disciplined comes at the cost of less enjoyment in life. That mental framework can be hard to break out of. A few days ago someone mentioned that Warren Buffett still used his McDonald's coupons. You need to find a balance that you think is right for you, and in my opinion, you need to value your health and quality of life above money. Thanks for watching and being on the road to Reddit Millionaire with us. So, are you financially savvy? How did you get there, or how are you planning to be one? Let us know. Until next one.